So here we have two of the most overpowered sounding watches ever, potentially. This is the Boderry Admiral, and the brand name absolutely sucks, admittedly. But I asked this brand if they wanted to send these over because the specs for a GMT are mental. I'll link it in the video description if you want to check it out. It's meant for our upcoming GMT roundup. I'm just intrigued to really see if there are any major downsides to these watches, any reasons they can't go in the GMT roundup I'm planning of doing, because on paper there's nothing that really competes with these. I mean, I can't believe the packaging on a watch this cheap. Okay, so there are some signs this is budget, like the packaging is definitely rough around the edges inside. Wow, I mean, that feels really light. And let's just quickly get the other one too. And there we go. So this is the Boderry Admiral GMT. And this watch is basically just specs personified. The design, as you can see, it is nothing special, nothing particularly extraordinary. But for those of you who care more about specs than the actual design of the watch, it's very hard to beat these. Now, it's got all the things you'd expect. It's got an automatic movement, clearly, as you can tell by the sweeping second hand. But it's also got GMT functionality. Got a rotating bezel, which actually feels fairly good for the money. I mean, the price on these is insane. You'll have to take a look in the description to double check what it is at the time of publishing this. And it's not just that, I think supposedly it has a sapphire crystal too, but most importantly, this watch isn't made of stainless steel. Now, this watch is fully titanium as well, and this watch is about $150 US, or in that ballpark. That's cheaper than a Q Timex quartz GMT, and yeah, automatic, mega specs. I want to take a look at this bracelet though. That is one gritty crown, but it does screw down. Here's a closer look at the white model. It's extremely vanilla and safe, I have to say, but it's not absolutely hideous. Passable perhaps, and it is very, very thin too. Case finishing is all reasonable, all brushed, quite basic. The black one is probably slightly the better looking of the two. Of course, exactly the same specifications and performance on this one. Advertised 200-meter water resistance, whether that is actually the case remains to be seen. The case back looks like a screw back akin to some of those third-party Rolex case backs. And the star, I mean, it kind of looks like a Jack Mason branding or something like that. Obviously, they have nothing to do with this watch. Even the bracelet is supposedly titanium too, with some steel parts. Let's take a closer look at that. Yeah, the bracelet is definitely mostly made of titanium too. And there are some slight tolerance issues right there next to the clasp, but it's not bad. Big solid piece of metal. I think some of the bits here are stainless steel. The only side effect with this is I don't think there's any sort of micro adjustments. You will be limited to adjusting in link-sized increments, which is somewhat of a shame, but I mean, for the price, I have seen a lot worse, and at least it is fully titanium. I mean, some of you ask, why don't I cover these homage brands more often, or these spec monster brands? And because, well, the video would be pretty much as short as this. It's all about specs, and yeah, that's kind of where it ends, so. But yeah, these don't seem awful. There's no glaring mistakes that I can see here. Out of the two, I think the black is the better looking one. But yeah, the titanium Boderry GMT. Let's test the crystal just to make sure they're not lying. So on wrist, we've got a Christopher Ward. I mean, if this isn't sapphire, that's pretty worrying. Yep. So we got a positive reading there on the diamond selector. Now let's try the Boderry. And yeah, so they weren't lying about it being sapphire. And the black one is too as well. Is this something I would buy? No. Is it a remarkable achievement to make a watch for this cheap with these sorts of materials and specs? I would say so, yeah.